That takes us off to the next thing I wanted to speak about. So, Nick, what's this deal with? They admitted that Bo-Katan is now the Mandalorian, because I didn't see this and I couldn't find it. Can you give us the rundown on that?
I don't know if I heard anything about. I remember hearing them talk about how. So if you go back, there was a picture floating around of the Lucas film story group's
I was gonna say, I think it
whiteboard.
was one of the writers, and they had said that the Mandalorian doesn't just mean Din Djarin or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, if you watch the show from the very beginning, that's 100% what it means, or at least that's what they
the
implied.
Mandalorian. Mando, the Mandalorian, get the Mandalorian, Mando.
Yeah. So what they should have done is, before I get to that, the picture I was talking about that was going around with the Lucas Films story group's whiteboard. One of the things on there was no main character. So they don't want to have.
So they're going to drift in and out with different.
Yeah, they don't want to have any main character. They want several people to kind of, be at the forefront of the shows and not really only focus on one person all the time. So that's why I think we're seeing a lot of this. It feels like it's now the Bo-Katan show. But I mean, I said over the weekend they should have just ended Mando with that ending of season 2. It felt like a series finale more than a season finale, and then they should have just renamed this season, the Mandalorians or Mandalore or Bo-Katan, because they're so creative with their show titles over there. I'm sure they would have came up with something along those lines. But yeah, it definitely seems like they're trying to now say, it's not just the Mandalorian's not just Din Djarin. It's Grogu, it's Bo-Katan, and we're gonna focus on all these different characters. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, so narratively speaking, it doesn't actually make sense that Din Djarin would come around and lead Mandalore. Like, I don't like that for his character. I don't feel like that's true to what they've sort of established as the character. I think they've sort of established him as this father figure. So I think it makes sense that I thought they were going to do something far smarter with it, though, like with Bo-Katan and Din Djarin. I thought they were going to have Bo-Katan go get the mythosaur and sort of basically stake her claim to Mandalore by having the mythosaur, and then having to fight Din Djarin because they have to, obviously, she has to then also get the Darksaber, but he just gave it to her. So I was a bit like,
so anticlimactic.
I was like, that's really crap. And I'm thinking to myself, you've lost a lot of what you could have done there, which would have been interesting. Din Djarin reluctant, having to fight someone that he's built a sort of a relationship with over this period of time, and then they just go, here, have it then. No worries. You're Mandalorian now, and I get it, because for Din Djarin it doesn't make sense for him to lead Mandalore. It just doesn't. He isn't a leader. He isn't that character. They've never.
Not only that, they established that she had to fight him for it or whatever, and best him in battle or whatever it was.
Well, this is what I mean. Yeah, the last episode they did this weird mental gymnastics thing of, well, actually he got beaten and she then beat the person that he beat. That beat him, so it's actually hers now. So
that's not how the Force works.
Yeah, and also Bo-Katan, by the way, you can also take your helmet off too.
That was really dumb. Yeah, that was really dumb.
You know what that tells me? When they start going doing stuff like that, Jon Favreau is out proceedings, and they're going a completely different direction than what he set out.
Yeah, it does feel that way. It feels very disjointed now.
I got pushback on me saying that really the collapse of all these Star Wars shows and the future of Star Wars, it hinged completely on a secondary character named Cara Dune and her absence from all the future projects that were currently under the plan for Favreau. And I think that it screwed things up so badly that we ended up with such a long delay with a very undercooked Book of Boba Fett and every subsequent show being less than redeemable.
Yeah. I mean, you You
I
could write
subscribe to
yourself
that.
well. You could write yourself well out of that. I mean, there's two trains of thought there, right? Like that's a stretch if you're dealing with competent writers, but obviously
They're
it's Lucasfilm, so they don't have
Yeah.
competent writers.
No.
So, like, I'm reluctant to agree with you, but then I also am reminded that we're dealing with Lucasfilm, so you are actually probably right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't want to just full steam go, yeah, I believe, yeah, I'm on board with that because I'm like, well, no, because a
Well,
competent writer would be like, nah, just fuck this bitch, it's fine, like, you know, be fine. Like,
I
who
am on
cares?
board with that.
No, that's what I mean. But because they have such incompetent writers, I'm almost forced to agree a little bit.
Elementary level. I mean, 8 episodes long season, and you could have given us a really good story arc with the Darksaber and that whole aspect
done
of how
anything
she
with
winds up with it. Instead, you give us CSI Mando, on trying to solve a crime, and you get Lizzo and Jack Black and all this other stupid little fluff that they throw in there. It just feels like they're wasting so much time. Like
Well,
the
they
writers
are.
just don't know what to do with it.
Because they
Well,
don't.
yeah,
I think they
always
lost their
do.
leadership, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have the liar leader in Kathleen Kennedy, who's constantly and chronically exposed as the liar that she is, resulting in how many, Tom, you have the list. How many freaking people never
It's
finished
growing.
working on a Star Wars thing? I mean, it's a huge list. 14. I mean, it's
I
like
think
a
at least
ridiculous
14 or
today,
15
yeah.
projects. I mean, some of which have finally come to fruition, but not all but basically 2 have not gone without a hitch, and the rest have been canceled. And it's in the teens now, yes. And in fact, I think Andre's been working on a video about this very subject
Yes,
because
I'm still working on it as we speak.
it was kind of spawned on by her lies, but yeah.
oh
But
god.
Embarrassing,
can I
isn't it?
just elaborate on why I think that the firing of Gina Carano ruined everything?
I think you're right, but yes.
Yeah. The reason for that, ever since she was fired, I have always described her as a load-bearing pillar. She was hand-picked by Jon Favreau. She didn't go to an audition or anything like that. There was never an open casting call for Cara Dune. Jon Favreau hand-picked her for that particular role. Because what he was doing something similar to what he had already done in the MCU. He was one of the architects that started the entire Marvel universe. He didn't just do Iron Man, that's what he directed, but he was one of the architects for the entire thing. He was one of those that sat in the room with Ike Perlmutter and with Kevin Feige and with the rest of the story group of comic book writers that they had at the time, and they charted out that, okay, this is all of phase 1. We're going to build up towards Thanos, and in order to do that, we're going to have this movie, we're going to have that movie, we're going to have that movie, we're going to introduce all of this here, and all of this is a structure that's going to build up to this. And he was doing the exact same thing with the Mandalorian. Now, one of the pillars in that thing was Cara Dune. Well, now we don't know it. Kind of like the same thing. Imagine if we now are at the early ages of the MCU. We have gotten Iron Man. We have gotten the Incredible Hulk. We've gotten Thor. We're supposed to get Captain America. He's been set up and everything, but oh no, now some asshole just fired Chris Evans. We no longer have Captain America. Now what the hell do you do? Because this was such an important part of the Avengers going forward. Do you recast Chris Evans after you've already set him up? Or do you write him out? Then you're going to have to change the Avengers pretty freaking badly. What then happens with everything that comes after that? Now what happens with the Thanos story? Now when you no longer have the Captain America character that was absolutely central in the theme dynamics, now maybe you have to change everything around. And then on top of that, you have the little cunt Dave Filoni, who's never been there for the fans. He's always been Kathleen Kennedy's little spy, as Tom has pointed out on the multiple occasions. He was the
And
first
all
to
about
point
himself.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now, suddenly, the Cara Dune, the fighting of her, has destroyed all the plans. That's what happened right here.
Yeah, I can believe it.
Oh,
I
and
can
it's
believe it.
well, the other thing is we learned. Well, it kind of come to a head with this whole thing at Celebration this weekend, right? We had how many spin-offs that were supposed to be set up from Mandalorian? There was a whole like board of them, remember? And
There
of all those
was.
spin-offs, the only one we're getting now is Ahsoka, and this is why I think Andre is right, because Filoni and Carano's exit, Filoni got a promotion around the same time that Carano was kicked, right?
Mm.
And ever since then, it seemed
Yeah.
like things went off the freaking rails. It's like, why would you have Grogu take off with Luke only to waste a couple episodes of Boba Fett to have him come back? That makes no sense. It's like something happened there, right? Something happened that sent this thing completely off the rails. The setup was clear and obvious that they got the baby out of the way so you could have Bo-Katan and Mando face off in season 3 over the Darksaber. And like you said, it was going to be a reluctant fight on his part, but and she was just going to be relentless. I could see that how it was going to go. And then the first episode I watched, it's like, who is this character? She is a completely different person now. All this other crap is like, it hasn't mattered. It doesn't matter. It's like you got a perfect setup for a good season here, and you went off this other direction. Mando needs a bath. What the hell is all this crap? You know, like what is going on here? And then we're learning more and more. And then we see this first event, and Favreau's not there. He's at the second event, but there was a telling moment in that second event. Filoni's getting all fucking, excuse my French, I'm sorry. Filoni's getting all like weepy-eyed. I'm not kidding you. And Favreau doesn't budge. His face doesn't change. He doesn't clap along with the audience. He does not move. So he shows no emotion whatsoever when Filoni's gushing about being a part of Star Wars and all this crap.
Mm.
And then we learn that The Mandalorian is ending with a movie.
Well, that's what I was about to say, is that...
So all this stuff is coming to an end. I have a feeling he's out the door as soon as that movie's done.
But it's also who's directing the movie, which is Filoni.
Exactly.
Yeah, they didn't announce that he had any involvement or is going to have any involvement in it at all.
And then there's this interview that I sent Andre that I think may be part of this upcoming video where she's talking about all this stuff where we caught her in those lies that Culture was referring to. She don't mention Favreau but once or twice in the whole thing. But it's Dave this, Dave that, Dave. We lost count how many times she brought up Dave. We were getting a joke about it last night, and we were like, we could start a drinking game, but we'd kill our audience last night. I was like,
well,
yeah, literally, Favreau. Rumor has it Favreau is on his way out, and after this weekend, I mean, I kind of believe it, or I can at least believe the possibility.
Yeah, I can believe that. I can believe that indeed. Which
Disney's trapped by now two too big to fail IPs that are now essentially decaying and moribund. You're going to have death of both of these entities that were so popular that they shouldn't ever have the opportunity to fail. They should just be a money printing machine, and that's where we're at. Yeah. I mean, and again, I mean, I don't know what else to add. I think Nick nailed it. Tom was eloquent, and Andre is 100% right.
I don't know about eloquent. Yeah. Thank you.
The other side, real quick, they keep pointing to this. I've seen it out there. They keep pointing to this article with this interview with Favreau talking about, are you getting influence from the outside? And all. He's like, no, I have 100% control. Nobody's influenced me to do anything.
Well,
I get to do what I want. And it's like, what do you expect him to say?
Yeah.
Like, do you think he's going to come out and be like, man, there's meddling. Kathy's all up in my business. They're making me make changes. This sucks. You think he's going to say that publicly? No, come on.
There was another interview where he was talking about the changes that had to be made. I don't think they went into it specifically, but he was like, oh, yeah, I found it a challenge. It was an interesting challenge and very diplomatic. That. Yeah, Culture knows what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I think that might have been a Hollywood Reporter interview. I have to go look for that. Yeah.